What was going through your mind, and how the heck did you end up getting caught into a tornado?
First off, I thought I was going to die. Like, that's hands down. There was a moment there that I thought, like, this is how it's going to end.
Hello and welcome to the Ride On Motorcycle Podcast. I am your host, Jogo from Jogo Motorcycle Adventures. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We're going to have an awesome content creator on tonight, Ryan from Throttle Hog. His content is absolutely fantastic. He doesn't make moto vlogs. In his own words, he makes cinovlogs, and we'll dive down a little bit later into that. So without further ado, let's bring in Ryan from Throttle Hog. But as always, we got to bring him in right. Created the intro, so let's go ahead and roll the intro. Brother.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. I just want to say that I appreciate you coming on to the live stream. I've been watching your content for quite a while now and absolutely admire what you're doing.
Oh, thanks, man. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. All right, let's move into the first question. Ryan, tell us a little about yourself and your YouTube channel for the people that don't know you.
So the channel is Throttle Hog. I've been doing video production and videography for 22 years and photography for just over 6 now. Kind of created the channel with the idea of my passion for motorcycles and my absolute passion for video production, which are literally side by side. I wouldn't be able to choose if somebody said you had to give one up. And decided to marry those together and just create a YouTube channel that's motorcycle centric, trying to create those, cinematic style adventures and the way that I like to produce the films. And I'm just having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, in your words, I dove back into your channel and watched the channel trailer. You said in your words, you want to bring cinovlogs, not only moto vlogs, but cinovlogs. So, and you do a really good job with that. So just in your words, real quick, what do you identify a cinovlog as?
So the cinovlog just kind of came out of my mouth one day when I was kind of creating a video, and I just ran with it. I was like, you know what, that rings well. So essentially, a cinovlog is either a regular vlog or a moto vlog that has some type of cinematic sequence, some type of, music layover with some spicy B-roll that just kind of flows and brings everything together. More for the creative side in me. I always joke around, I can't draw a stick figure. I am the world's worst artist. I barely can stay within the lines when I'm coloring in a book. And this is my only way to really have some type of expressive artistic, outlet. And so I use the platform for that. So I get it. Sometimes it's not for everybody, but I just enjoy kind of creating those cinematic sequences that I throw into the motovlog or the video.
Right. Yeah. And what I learned real quickly when I started doing YouTube is it's very hard to have people watch your channel and your motovlogging, and all it is just you on the motorcycle talking. I mean, it gets boring after a while. So when you're doing those cinovlogs, it definitely spices things up and makes it a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a win-win. And then it makes it fun for me, the creator, right? Because I might think of something that I want to showcase, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll just do some B-roll on it.
Yeah, exactly. So now let's move into the second question here. So how long have you been riding, and what exactly got you into motorcycling?
Oh boy. So I started riding in May of 2000. So it's going to be in just a few days. It will be exactly 23 years. Well, I'd say that's when I first purchased my first motorcycle. Believe it or not, I got my story of riding I thought about doing a video on this, but years ago, I was with my father, and we were on an off-roading trip here in Southern California. I'm out of San Diego, and we're on an off-roading trip, just him and I. I think at that time I couldn't have been much more than 10, maybe 11. And on the way back, we went through Ocotillo Wells, which is a big dirt bike spot, right? And you have all these people all geared up, kitted out with their chest protectors and their dirt bikes. And, you think about, at that time in that genre, depending on how old you are, you had like the movies like Rad that came out, where they're, the bicycles. And that was cool. But now you're going next level because these guys are on dirt bikes. And my dad made the comment to me. He's like, Ryan, one day you and I are going to get some bikes and we're going to go for a ride, because my dad rode when he was younger. And that stuck in my head. So every Christmas and every birthday, I anticipated and expected that one day I would have a motorcycle either under the tree or gifted to me. That never happened, by the way. So it was multiple years of disappointment. Actually, one year, as a joke, he went ahead and bought me a little Tonka toy motorcycle and gifted that to me. So kind of stuck out in my head. Then I think when I was in high school, my buddy Jake, he lived on a big property, and I remember going up and hanging out with him, and they had 2 dirt bikes in the garage. And he's like, hey, we should go for a ride. And his dad was standing right there. And at this time, I think, what am I, 16? At this time, he looks over at me and he says, Ryan, do you know how to ride? Well, what do? You reach in your pocket, and you pull out a lie, and you say, yes, I do. And I'll never forget it, because we were in this garage, and I was just trying to watch my buddy Jake and his movements. I had no idea how to ride a motorcycle, which would end up coming back and biting me a little bit. But I just watched his movements, and away we took off on these like Yamaha 80s or something. I don't even remember. But I didn't know how to downshift. So once we got to our first hill, I kept on bogging out. And of course, I'm blaming the bike, like, oh, I've never experienced something like this before. That's because I've never experienced it. I was lying the entire time. And then I'd rode a buddy's, that years later, I rode a buddy's CBR 600. And that CBR 600 is what got me to fall in love just after one ride. And so I went and purchased my first motorcycle, which is a Kawasaki ZX6R. And then quickly just started running through the gamut of motorcycles, and, jumped into the Gixxer 750, and I was in that sport bike realm, which led into us doing crazy, stupid things as most young kids do. And we got into stunt riding before stunt riding was even a thing, and ended up creating, that was my first video production, actually, was back in 2001. And that video production was called Up on One. And this is pre-YouTube. It was on DVD, and it's sad that DVD is now old. Like, it's like VHS, right? But this was on DVD, and it ended up selling all over the world, in the United States, Canada, Australia, Japan, Europe. I basically got into it because my buddies said that I couldn't. It's pretty much the whole reason that I put that film together. But it sparked the passion for videography. So that's how it all started.
That's kind of a crazy story. So you just hop on the bike, you don't know what the heck you're doing. You're like, yeah, I got this. It's all good.
Just watch his movements.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. So now let's jump into the next question here. Question number 3. I did a little bit of a deep dive on your channel, and I saw one of the videos where you came across Bunk A Biker. And for those that don't know what exactly Bunk A Biker is, you want to dive down into that, what it is, and how exactly your experience was?
Yeah, absolutely. So I first learned of Bunk A Biker from a buddy of mine that's here in San Diego. His name's Clint August. He's a voice jockey out here on one of the radio stations, has his own channel called Motorcycle Monkey. And he had covered this. He was, we kind of bounce ideas off each other. And he said, look, I got this thing called Bunk A Biker. And so he was telling me a little bit about it. And it was really interesting to me at the time. It still is. But it is basically an organization. They have a Facebook page. You go and you basically kind of get vetted through that Facebook page. Once you're a part of that community, anywhere you travel, and this is now, I believe it's already worldwide, but every year it keeps on getting bigger and bigger. So you go on to this map of the U.S., and no matter where you're at, you'll see these little pin drops that show what Bunk A Biker is available. And essentially what it is people that are opening their homes or their yards or their trailers or something that they have extra of, and they're motorcycle enthusiasts, they've been vetted through the Bunk A Biker system, and they open it up free of charge for anybody traveling on a motorcycle. And I was like, man, what a crazy, cool concept, because we all know that this community is probably the best community out there by far. It's not probably, it is the best community out there by far. So you basically, you click on where you're going to be, and it'll tell you if it's an inside room that's available, if it's inside or they have camping available, or if it's camping only. Like, you get a chance to see ahead of time. You have a phone number, you let them know you're going to be in the area, and you just show up. And that's how it was explained to me. The only kind of thing is that they really want to encourage that the rider that's going to go visit with them is going to take a few minutes to hang out with the host, right? Maybe even go for a ride. They want to show you their town or something like that. So they want to make sure that they encourage that type of communication. Not required, but they want to encourage it, which totally makes sense, right? These people are opening up their homes to you. They want to be able to visit with you and hear about your trip. So while filming the Every Mile of Memory documentary, I was going into Sturgis, but it wasn't during the Sturgis rally. And I thought, okay, what a great opportunity to take advantage of this Bunk A Biker program. Let me see how it works. My first time ever doing it. So I reached out to a host and I said, hey, I'm going to be coming in. And of course, in the beginning, it just kind of feels awkward, right? I've never done it before. I'm like texting them back and forth. So I show up at their place. And if you guys haven't been to Sturgis, even if you've been to Sturgis, you'll know exactly where it's at. Even if you haven't, I can pretty much tell you exactly where this is at. So the mountain hill of Sturgis that has Sturgis written on it, at the bottom of that hill, there's a small community of homes, and that's pretty much where their home was. I showed up, I want to say it was around 5 p.m., somewhere around there. And immediately it was like arms wide open, like, welcome to our home. They were sitting out having, cocktails on their front wraparound porch, which overlooked the rest of Sturgis. And, I'd been riding all day, and sure enough, they're like, cold beer, here we go. We sat down for about an hour, just kind of getting to know each other. Then they threw on some really nice steaks onto the grill. We had a fantastic dinner. They showed me where I'd be staying, and their whole house is done up with Harley Davidson stuff, the bedroom, everything. We just kind of hung out for a few more hours, getting, just chit-chatting. And I went to bed, and I had to wake up early the next morning. Early next morning, coffee's ready. I mean, it was like you were at a bed and breakfast, but multiply that times 10, because they were so gracious, such an awesome host. They even packed like goodie bags for me for the road. Like, I had freshly baked cookies. They gave me these Harley Davidson playing cards that I still have in the case to this day. Like, it was a really special moment. So Bunk A Biker is available to everybody. You just have to go on and, register through the Facebook page. Have your Facebook's got to be available for them to take a look at and to vet you. And then once you're in the program, it's really simple, easy to use, and I can't recommend it enough. I've yet to hear of a bad experience from anybody using Bunk A Biker. So that's pretty much how it works.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. And all that was free, right?
Yeah, the entire thing is free of charge. It's actually in their quote unquote bylaws that the host is never going to ask for a payment, that this is all supposed to be for bikers supporting bikers. They do ask that you don't do it during, like, you can't go during a Sturgis rally and expect to get a Bunk A Biker, because they're going to be renting as much property out as possible. But anything that is not something like that, it's 100% free of charge, as long as they have the availability, and they have to agree to it. But it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, that's cool. And obviously those two went above and beyond by, cooking you steak. They had beer there for you already. I mean, that packing a goodie bag for you to go. I mean, that's almost like Airbnb. It's kind of similar to Airbnb, but free, which is everybody in the motorcycle community. I'm definitely going to give that a shot sometime, because
you have to.
I'm pretty sure I joined that Facebook page and I never acted on it, but I think I definitely need to try that out for sure.
Highly recommend it.
And then you guys that are here watching, let me know down in the chat, have you guys ever used the Bunk A Biker before? I know I saw one comment on here. Let's see. I forget who it was. They said Bunk A Biker was great. So the chat's going pretty good right now. So here it is. Scott Hopkins said that he just signed up for Bunk A Biker. So I'm interested to hear how his experience is.
Yeah, no, I'd be curious to always share your stuff on that, and just support that program, and just a really cool concept. Like I said,
Right.
you got the greatest community in the world. Just and I'm sure there's going to be a situation down the road, right? It's always one bad apple that's going to
Right.
either disrespect the property or something. But above and beyond, I mean, our numbers of good far outweigh the bad, so I'm sure it'll thrive.
Let's go ahead and move into question number 4. And before I even bring this on here, I put together a little video to introduce this question. So let's go ahead and roll this real quick.
All right.
I am the only idiot on a motorcycle right now. It's absolutely insane.
Right there, you ended up getting caught in a tornado while you were riding. And so the question that I have for that is, what was going through your mind, and how the heck did you end up getting caught into a tornado?
Oh boy. Yeah, it still feels like it was yesterday, and it just passed a year. When I say just passed a year, I think 2 days ago was a year since that incident. I want to say, yeah, I think it was in that video. I give the date. I want to say it was like May 8th or May 9th. First off, I thought I was going to die. Like, that's hands down. There was a moment there that I thought, like, this is how it's going to end. And I'm not sure if in that video or in Every Mile of Memory, when that first happens, I lift my visor to speak to the camera, and you see me shut it real quick, and I'm turning quickly, and that's because sheet metal was tumbling down the freeway and just kind of digging into cars as it was tumbling down the freeway. And I thought, now keep in mind, I'm from San Diego. I know nothing about this type of weather, what this is going to entail. So I see sheet metal rolling down the freeway, and I'm thinking a big old house with some witch inside of it is going to come and take me out, right? So I did have a moment of like, okay, this is probably how it's going to end right here. Like, I got to find a way. Fight or flight definitely came in. I know my adrenaline was jacked, and I was trying to figure out a way to stay alive. What would happen if? So getting into that situation, I had just left Brad, IA Hog Rider, in Iowa earlier that day. And I went through terrible winds in Iowa, and I saw tornado watch alerts coming up on my phone, right? I saw like, hey, there's a tornado watch. As I'm exiting Iowa and entering into Minnesota, and I can see the weather's changing, and I could feel that it went from really hot to just kind of a clammy dampness, cool breeze out of nowhere, and I could feel something was going to happen. So I elected to get into rain gear, and I thought, okay, I'll just stay ahead of the curve here. The winds were bad. It was like 40-mile-an-hour winds for like a 28-mile stretch. It was terrible. But I pulled over, and even in the Every Mile of Memory, so I remember getting my stuff on. I only kept the half shell on because it didn't start raining just yet. And I was like, you know what? As soon as I started feeling the first raindrops, I was like, I'm going to stop. Now, the winds were they kind of like calmed down. They were very mild, like 8-mile-an-hour winds. And I'm at this gas station, and as soon as I go to swap out the helmet, this gust of wind just comes out of nowhere, and it was constant. And then the lightning started, and then there was thunder. And I was like, okay, let me just continue down the road. I called on my buddy Danny. I'm like, hey, this is where I'm at. It's terrible weather. And he's like, yeah, just ride safe. No worries. So about a mile, I don't know more than that. It was about 5 miles from that gas station. I started going up the road. My GoPros had died. Batteries were done. And I thought, you know what? I'm tired. I'm soggy. I just want to get to the location. It was 13 miles away. I was like, you know what? I want to film myself showing up. It's part of the story. part of the story is showing up at my buddy Danny's, who I started riding with back when I first got my first motorcycle. He was there during the first video production. So I was like, all right, you know what? Pull over, swap out one of the GoPro batteries. The lighting was terrible. It was getting dark. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hit record. And I never do this, by the way, but I just hit record and I left it. I was like, maybe I'll get some cool lightning shots. It'd be pretty dramatic to get some, me riding through some lightning. I'm not kidding. That's what I was thinking. So not but 60 seconds after I got back on the freeway and was heading north, the rain started to intensify, the wind, and then you just see this wall. And there was a bridge up ahead, but you just see this wall coming towards you. And that it's bad. I mean, to the point where I was like, there's so much rain that the side gutters are full of water. Cars got their hazards on. And then everybody up ahead comes to a complete and utter stop. And this wall hits me. And I'm not joking. I had both my feet down on the ground to use as almost like skis, right? So to the fact that there was cars still around, and I was like, hey, if I'm going to dump the bike, I want to be able to at least know it ahead of time so I can jump off of it and whatever. So I squeeze in between some cars and I pull up underneath that overpass, which was the only overpass for several miles. So I got lucky there. The wind was so strong I was unable to put my kickstand, or even on the kickstand, the wind was still going to tip the bike over. Several times I tried to get off the bike and the bike was just completely going to go. So at that particular moment, I'm filming, I'm, thinking, oh man, I see that sheet metal. I'm thinking that this is it. And my phone's ringing and I got it connected to my Senna. It's my buddy Danny. And as soon as I answered the phone, he's like, dude, where are you? And I was like, man, I'm underneath this overpass. He's like, dude, there's a tornado. I was like, I know. I'm pretty sure I'm in it. And so I get off the phone with him. I'm trying to make sure I can capture some video moments in case, if it was the end, it would be how it ended, I guess. And I run up to the crevice of the overpass in that little just triangle crack area. And I'm running up there. I tuck down real tight, and it only lasted about 4 minutes, I would say. 4.5 minutes of the strong, gnarly stuff. And then it subsided, but there was still quite a bit of lightning. The streets were flooded. My buddy was like, hey, I called him when it died down. I was like, hey, I'm going to get ready to get back up. Oh, I got to tell this part of the story. So there was a pickup truck that blocked my bike so I could get off the bike, right? They could see I was struggling. And people are shouting and like pointing. And I was like, yeah, I know. I get it. I'm an idiot. And so, people are like, what are you doing? Where are you from? I was like, I'm from San Diego. So, but people blocked in the bike because they knew I couldn't get off. They saw that I was like holding it up, and even on its kickstand, the bike just wanted to go. There was this one guy that pulled up behind my bike, and he immediately rolls down. He's like, get in. And I'm soaking wet. And I wanted to be respectful for this guy I was like, dude, I'm completely wet. I appreciate you stopping. But, this guy gave me water. He gave me like granola bars and a whole bunch of other stuff. He rides as well, and he was from India, and just a really, really cool experience to have him be like, hey, riders got to take care of riders. And so I called my buddy Danny. He's like, dude, just go park the bike somewhere. I'll come pick you up in the truck and we'll come get it tomorrow. Like, this is ridiculous. Now keep in mind, I have 13 miles left. And so I was like, nope. Part of the story is me showing up at your house on the bike, and we're already committed. Let me just get to your house. So I leave there. The streets are flooded. I hit a big patch of water, and I've heard all the stories. You guys can hear me out on this, and I am proof. To hydroplane a bike in a straight line is not like a car, right? Because it's gyro, it's one wheel in front of the other. So it doesn't hydroplane like a car. So I hit this big flooded patch. I miss my exit. So I have to circle, and of course it's like in Minnesota. So in order to get, it's not like you can just take the next exit, right? Every exit in Minnesota, I swear, is another freeway that you have to go and take another, loop around somewhere. And on one of the turnoffs, it's just a big flooded patch. And I literally thought I was going to drop the bike then. I hit this patch, water sprays aside, but the bike, surprisingly enough, felt extremely stable. I just knew, don't grab the brakes. Don't snap
Right.
the throttle. Just keep your arms, where they're at, no abrupt movements. So I went through that. Then I went through another flooded section that was so deep that there was a pickup truck with the water up to above its door handle. And I remember
Oh my
going
God.
through into that, and I was like, I stopped. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to chance this one. And I literally had, it's nighttime. I see the hazards of this vehicle, and I'm walking the bike back with water that's going almost up to my air filter, my intake. And I'm walking the bike back. So I get out of that mess. People are going around the opposite side, the divided highway to get around this area. It was a mess. But I finally made it to my buddy Danny's house. My adrenaline was jacked that entire night. I almost got no sleep whatsoever because if the cameras weren't rolling, I would have kicked myself. And I don't think it would have been the fish that got away. Nobody would believe me.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's,
That's
the
a crazy story, man. Like I've been caught in some bad storms, but not a tornado. Oh, I mean, we got Russell McDonald saying, "What a way to go, riding your motorcycle into a tornado." Exactly.
right.
Scott Hopkins says, "Experience that in a car, motorcycle, way more crazy." Absolutely. You got zero shelter. And then Big Bert, he must have the mind of a creator because he said it was some crazy footage, but to even think of turning the camera on.
Well, and that circles back to the whole thing. I did what I've never done before, which is just I turned the camera on, I hit record, and I didn't. I just was like, hey, it's to the bars. Whatever it captures, it captures. So the
Right.
fact that it was rolling made it a lot easier for me to just look over at the camera and make. I didn't know if the audio was going to turn out. I didn't know anything that was going to happen. But it was just kind of those fluky things where if it had been that I decided not to hit record and that I was going to drive a little bit and that happened, I don't think I would have captured it because that'd be taking my hand off the handlebars, going up, trying to hit record.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I would have chanced it. So it just was one of those fluky things. Everything happens for a reason. And it just so happened I turned that camera on, and I'm just grateful that I did and that I was able to climb out of it. But I did think I was toast.
Yeah, understandable. Guy from Tennessee says, "What a great story to tell." My wife says, "What a crazy story. Glad you made it out safe." Lee Sturges, "Awesome story. Glad you made it safe." Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
I could not even imagine.
Well, and to think of that, it added to the story of Every Mile of Memory, right?
Yeah, of course.
Was
Yeah.
the icing on the cake. It was something that really helped. They say in every story you got to have that conflict and that resolution, right?
Right. Yeah,
There was definitely the conflict of the weather and how to tell that story on battling the weather. I decided to make it its own segment in that documentary. And I just was really pleased the way that it turned out. And for everybody that's watched it and their feedback has been amazing.
Right. Yeah, and we'll dive down into that Every Mile of Memory here pretty soon. So obviously you've rode in some bad weather. So question 5, what's your best advice for riding in bad weather?
Ironically, I just released a video today on tips for riding in bad weather. Things that I'm not a riding instructor or anything like that. These are just things that I will tell you helped my confidence in pushing through because I've been caught now in snow. I've been caught in rain and hail and everything in between. That I would say, and I joke about it in the video, but rule number 1 is don't be there. If you can avoid it, definitely just don't be there. It's not something I would ever want to do again. Both the snow and the tornado, I never want to do that again. But as far as riding tips and techniques, I would say keeping your shoulders, your arms, and your hands loose. The more stiff you are and tight, which is a natural human reaction, you almost have to convince yourself. And if you go out and do this, you'll catch yourself that your shoulders are so tight and locked. You have to really loosen that up and let the bike work. The bike wants to be stable, right? The bike wants to go straight. It wants to stay in that straight line. So if you are tense, any little wind movement is going to affect the movement of that bike. So, I would say if I had one piece of advice, I'll give you 2, and then there's a few more on the video I just did, but one is just shoulders, hands, arms, keep them loose. Lock your legs in that gas tank and keep it loose. And then number 2 is know jerking movements of any of the controls. That is throttle, brake, and input on your handlebars, right? We don't want to grab a handful of throttle and, yank on that thing. You got to get really good at trailing onto your brakes and trailing off your brakes. And it's something that takes practice. It takes doing it on a warm, sunny day to understand that once you roll off that throttle and get on the brakes, once you apply pressure and you start to feel the weight transfer, you can mash on those brakes. They are not going to lock up. It's just important things to learn and to practice so that when you're in that bad situation, you can feel confident to get through it. But I'd say the biggest thing is telling myself in those situations, relax your shoulders, relax your arms. If your hands are tingling, you're gripping too tight, right? If your hands are going numb, you're grabbing that motorcycle way too tight. But it's hard because your adrenaline's going. You're like, you know what? Screw that. I'm gonna hang on to this thing for dear life. You just have to consciously think about it.
Right. Yeah. And one thing that I noticed, because I went from 12-inch bars to 10-inch bars, I noticed with the 12-inch bars, I was always more tense because I was reaching up further. And ever since I got the 10-inch bars, I've been able to keep my body loose. But when you're going down like the twisty roads and stuff, you'll catch yourself. You're like, why am I so tensed up going around this curve? And you got to remind yourself, loosen up a little bit. And same goes for terrible weather. You got to stay loose and just go with the flow.
Yeah, man.
And practicing, as you mentioned, is extremely important. Practice the stuff when it's a nice day, like you said, and then even if it's raining outside or something, go out into the parking lot, even though you're going to get your bike filthy. But, you can always wash it. But you need to see what your bike is capable of in that kind of weather in case you run into it.
Absolutely, man. It's all about that confidence.
Yeah, no doubt. Then Jimmy the Bull said, add floaties to my saddlebag. Wouldn't be a bad thing to add there. Anthony C. says, Toretto, do you have any crazy weather stories? I think he's referring to me because sometimes I get that people say that I look like Vin Diesel. A Wish version of Vin Diesel at that. I don't have too many crazy stories.
I can see how you got there. I could see the Toretto on it. All right.
Yeah, so I either get Vin Diesel when I'm clean shaven, or I've heard numerous times Chris Daughtry when I get some.
Oh, definitely. Okay, so the Daughtry thing, 100%. Oh, I would run with that if I was you. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So with that one out of the way, leading into question 6, in your opinion, what do you think the worst weather is to ride in? Rain, snow, hail, sleet?
It all sucks.
Right.
I would honestly tell you wind is what I hate the most. I can deal with the rain. I never want to do tornado again, but I guess we can categorize that with the wind. And the snow is no fun, but I don't see myself getting into that type of a situation. I will tell you, if it ever happened again and there was even a possibility of snow, I wouldn't think about it. I would just stop before I even got to that area, because it's just not worth it. It's, there's no reason why the bike stayed up in that snowstorm. But I would say wind is by far the worst for me. Even on a road glide with the separation of the handlebars and the fairing not affixed in the handlebars, that wind especially on a long road trip, your neck is all cramped up for the rest of the time. You're dealing with big rigs that are passing you at 85 miles an hour, and you have to deal with the suck and blow of that. It just makes it not enjoyable. If there's a crosswind, you're pretty much attached to that motorcycle with both hands, because you're going to have, those cutout periods of wind where it's going to be, even if it's constant, you're going to be battling it back and forth. So wind is the one that I don't enjoy. It doesn't make for good video, doesn't make for good content creation, and it just sucks on the bike. The wind in Iowa was so strong that it almost shoved me all the way off the road. And you would have those strong gusts of wind that you're already getting pushed, and you feel yourself getting pushed even more. And then it would be, one last haymaker that you have to slow down in the wind, no matter what. There's nothing macho about, going fast through the wind because you're just getting lucky. You're not a good rider at that point. You're getting lucky. It will shove your 800-pound motorcycle with you on top of it right off the roadway, and it doesn't matter your riding skills or capabilities. It doesn't care.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that with the wind. There's nothing more that, even if I'm just walking or something, I hate the wind. But even on a motorcycle, and another thing that the wind could cause is you hit the right gust of wind, and that could throw you into a death wobble, which is no joke.
100%.
Yeah. Besides the wind, I would say I haven't experienced snow, and nor do I want to, even though it would be possible out here in Ohio.
Yeah. Somebody made a comment here that says black ice. Yeah. So that was what I was thinking the entire time in that snowstorm, is black ice, because black ice is notorious for taking down. You're down on the ground before you know what hits you if you hit black ice on a motorcycle. Like, there is no recovery if you hit it. So it is one of those things where, like you, I don't plan on ever going back through the snow again. I learned my lesson. Oh. And then going back to that tornado story, the one part that I forgot to mention was, I didn't know this. You guys are probably going to laugh at me, but tornado warning is the last warning, if that makes sense. Like, there's tornado watch. And then if it's tornado warning, there's already a funnel cloud that's touched the ground. I didn't know that. I saw the alert come up and I thought, okay, we had tornado watch, we have tornado warning, which means it's really getting serious. And then they're going to maybe just have tornado alert. I don't know.
Right.
But that's it. It was just tornado warning. That's as high as you get with a tornado. I didn't know that. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, it is confusing, because I get it confused all the time. You would think warning would be, hey, there might be one. Watch is, hey, there's one out there. But I don't know. Those weather guys get paid ungodly amounts of money just to point at a green screen, and they might be correct.
You only have to be right 70% of the time
right.
As a weather person.
Half the time they're not, so.
Figure that out. Yeah.
So you created a short, I don't know what you want to call it, documentary short film called Every Mile of Memory. So I want to show like the trailer for this that you put together real quick, and then we'll come back and talk about it a little bit.
Sure.
In life, we only get so many heartbeats. We only get so many breaths of fresh air. For each person, this number is different, and none of it's guaranteed. In between those heartbeats, like the shutter from a camera, you're capturing a memory. If you want to know who you are in this world, take a cross-country trip on a motorcycle. And if you want to change who you are, do it on a Harley Davidson.
Every mile of memory. Let's bring up the question here. What inspired you to create that documentary? 5,000 mile motorcycle trip on a Harley.
Oh boy, I hope everybody in the side chat's ready for this one. So let me just start this story off by telling you that I don't do drugs, because that's going to be the first thing that pops into your brain. So Sturgis Doesn't Care came out in 2021, and I was on my way out to the Stubborn American in October of 2021, shortly after Sturgis Doesn't Care. I was in New Mexico at the time, and I'd woke up really early in the morning. That's like my favorite time to ride on a road trip, is right before, have breakfast ready to go. You're on the bike right before sunrise, and you get out on the road and you get to feel that sun hit you. And, it's pretty crazy. So to kind of set this up, so my mother passed away in 2019, and she passed away at a young age abruptly from a very aggressive cancer that she was as healthy as a clam. She took the skin off chicken, and, her passing really hit home. I mean, we always talk about, life's short and don't delay, and I take advantage because you never know what's going to happen. And the same song and dance that we've all heard over and over again. And we all say, and I did for a while too, we all say, yeah, 100%, that's what I believe in. It wasn't until my mother's passing that I realized that I've been doing this all wrong. The things, I'm not putting off anything anymore because I'd always find an excuse. So here I am, I'm on, this trip to the Stubborn American. It's October, late September, early October. And I'm riding out New Mexico. Sun just came up. And my oldest childhood memory, no joke, that I can remember, that my body, my brain took me back to, it was a 2-lane highway in New Mexico. I know I was in the fast lane at the time. And this childhood memory of me, I'm wearing a red shirt. I got shorts on with cowboy boots. There's some design on the red shirt. I couldn't tell you what it was or what it said. I just know that it was designed. I think it had yellow writing. And I'm standing in the front yard of the house that we lived in at the time. And the garden was off to my right, and I could smell fresh cut grass. And I believe that at the time I could smell the grass that was being cut in, on the road, right from the roadside. So that memory led to the second longest memory that I ever could remember. That led to the third longest memory, and fourth and fifth. And it continued to play, and they were all only about 10 to 15 seconds long. Nothing more than 15 seconds. And I thought to myself at one point, I was like, whoa, this is really weird. I don't want this to stop. And I was telling myself, don't think about anything else. Just let this kind of run. It came to the point where I couldn't shut it off. These memories played in sequential order. Like I said, I don't do drugs. I tried to preface it. These memories played in sequential order at 7 to 15 second intervals of things throughout my life, memories that I had no idea were even memories, were filed away in my brain that just came back into reality. And those memories continued all the way up into the exact moment of the exact second that I was out on that road in New Mexico. And when that ended and it stopped, it was a crazy, crazy feeling. It was something I couldn't explain. And I spent the rest of that trip riding out to Moyers, Oklahoma, thinking there is a story here that needs to be told about what this did for me on a motorcycle. So it was really powerful. And then that is pretty much how the idea started. And then I knew that I needed to come up with a game plan. And, I took off in April of 2022 to go shoot it. And then it took me 6 weeks to edit it. And it was, to compress all that footage that I got all the way down to 22 and a half minutes was a lot. But
yeah, you probably had hours upon hours of footage. These people don't realize when you're a content creator, even a 5-minute video, you could have an hour worth of footage and you just need to splice it up and make it all make sense. And so I can only imagine how much footage you actually had from doing that trip.
I think it was just over 2 terabytes of footage to compress down into 22 minutes.
That's insane.
It was, it was a lot. It just was, that's the story. And getting that old footage, you have to realize I had to get footage from old 8mm film tapes. I've kept all the footage I've shot for the past 22 years. Every frame of every clip that I've ever shot, I have stored. And not only going through to my family's house and telling my dad that I need to go through all the boxes because I need to find some, childhood memories. Those are, that's me as a child, playing baseball in 1988. And that's, those were all those memories that I was thinking about on the road. And then, obviously that was personally, like I tell people all the time, Every Mile of Memory was a very personal film for me. Sturgis Doesn't Care, I absolutely love it. But if I had to have if my heart was going to pick one, Every Mile of Memory is going to be it, because it wasn't a destination. It was literally asking people to follow me on a motorcycle for 5,500 miles, and hopefully they enjoy, this story. And so it was really personal to me. It made me feel closer to my mom. Now I'm a God-fearing Christian, and I believe everything happens for a reason. I'm just, that's where I felt the closest to my mother, was out on the road and filming that. And then going through all that old footage was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I didn't know all about that behind, like the whole story behind that. But when I watched it, man, I mean, I know you poured your heart into it. And before we even hopped onto the stream, we were talking, and I know you did an Instagram live before you released it, and you're like, man, I don't know. I'm really nervous about releasing this. I really hope you guys like it. And that's just I feel like when you're a content creator or even just somebody that edits video, trying to put something together, that's always ingrained in your head. Like, man, I hope these people like it.
I lost several nights sleep, and my wife will be the one to contest to that. Is and as I mentioned, it took me 3 full days, 12 hours a day, just to score the music for the film and what I had in my mind. And it was when the video was done and already the premiere had already been set on YouTube. There's no going back, right? It's already just been, it's there. I did fish it out to a couple content creators, a handful of them. And I said, look, I need you guys to just watch this, and I need some honest, like, raw feedback, because I do want this to be successful, but I also want to hear what, their thoughts were. And it was like 5 different creators, and ones that, I respect their opinions greatly: Baggers and Brews and Adam Sandoval and Throttle Down Under. I had them, just view this, and it was unbelievable, feedback. But even them saying it's feedback, it's kind of like when, your parents tell you you're a great singer and you go on to American Idol and the rest of the nation finds out you're not a good singer, right? Your parents kind of lied. So I didn't know what to feel at the time. And it was still a lot. It was a lot to overcome. And those every single time, and I've got more documentaries in the works right now. Every single one, I compare it back to playing football back in the day, where before every game, I'm going to get sick. It's just going to happen, right?
Now, let's move on into the next question. So you've been to quite a few motorcycle rallies, and I'm curious, what's your favorite motorcycle rally that you've been to?
This is going to be a surprise. So everybody's going to have to not hold it against me in the side chat. Sturgis. And there's a reason for it. All right. Yeah, it's Sturgis. And because it's always going to hold a special place in my heart, going there with my wife and, experiencing that, and because of Sturgis doesn't care, there's a connection. It's now, I feel like it's just an extension of me, and knowing, like, once you roll into Sturgis, once you've been there, nobody needs to tell you where to go. You've got it all memorized. You don't need a map. You have all the roads memorized. It's the fact that you have the rally, you have concerts, and you have unbelievable riding all in the exact same area. Very few rallies, and I haven't been to them all, so I'm sure that there's others that do compare. But do you get to experience riding like the Black Hills, the event of Sturgis and everything it has to offer? Then you have your camping if you want that. There's something for everybody. So it will always hold a special place in my heart, and therefore Sturgis is going to be my number one.
Yeah, I have not been to Sturgis yet, but that's definitely on the bucket list. That question out of the way, I actually created a special screen for this question here. Come over here, and I want to know, what's your opinion on the new Road Glide and Street Glide CVOs that Harley Davidson just released? And you guys in the chat, feel free to chime in as well.
Well, I'm going to be honest. The first time that I thought it was a joke. I really did. I thought that it did have too many similarities. Like everybody's already said, it's like I'm biting off everybody else's comments, but they did look like Indians to me. And who knows if that's how they're going to continue to develop it or what happens. But I thought it was too much Indian-esque and not Harley, but I also haven't seen it live. So I don't know. It could be the angle. I don't know. I'd have to see it live before I make my final judgment call. They could be amazing, but the looks in itself, the lines just look very similar to an Indian, and that's my thoughts on it. Now, am I going to turn one down? You're absolutely crazy. No. If Harley contacted me tomorrow and said, hey, you now only get to ride this CVO.
Darn it.
Yeah. Okay. It probably has some amazing tech. It's, I just think that they should probably stick to the roots.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And the one thing that struck me, so I saw the streak glide and I said, "Oh my gosh, I do not like that whatsoever." And then I saw the road glide, and I actually kind of like how the road glide works. But in addition to that, the tech that's supposed to be on these things are supposed to be insane. So I'm excited to see that. And it looks like, from what I've heard, they have finally put LED turn signals on the bikes.
After how many years? Right, we finally got there. But you need to spend $65,000, $70,000, whatever that price tag is, to get them.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe they'll transfer some of this tech over to, I don't know, maybe the specials, stuff like that. I don't know. As you said, I got to see one in person, see exactly how they are. And they just released that video of the radio showing that the gauges are in there now,
which is cool. And I'm not going to lie. That's pretty cool.
But when I first saw that sparks a question. So in order to see like your speedometer and RPMs, like, do they have that split up in the radio? Because then you also got to control your music and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's one of those, I'd have to see it, to be honest. I'd have to see before I make judgment on it. You know, I understand Harley's tech has always been a big issue, and especially their infotainment system has always been a problem. That's probably one of my biggest downfalls. Their mapping on there is terrible. You know, it just feels very old school. Reminds me a lot of Toyota. I was a big Toyota person. I've had several Toyotas, but their tech was always been behind what other companies were doing, right? Harley the same thing. But the good news is Harley's already got the other things figured out. You know, so now if they got everything else kind of figured out, and now they just can, you know, spend that extra time on upping their tech, then we got the full package. And to be honest with you, my phone is my tech. I use very little of the infotainment system, so it doesn't bother me one way or another.
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to use the infotainment system. I have a 17 Street Glide, and that came with the old school buttons, so I replaced that with a SoundStream radio.
Other than people putting their feet down while going slow, the only other pet peeve that I have, probably the only other pet peeve I have, is somebody made a comment in a side chat. He says, "How are you going to blast your music?" For the love of God, people, I don't care what song you are playing on your Harley. And if you're with your other buddies and everybody has to have their own song, I have yet to meet a single or taken female or a dude or anybody else see one of those bikes rolling by with their music blasting so freaking loud, and for a girl to look over and be like, "Yeah, that's hot." It's never happened. Everything goes through my Senna system. I want no sound of stereo, and if you're in Sturgis, it's the worst, right? Because every bike's got their own. Like, do I really care that you're listening to an 80s rock song? Like, I get that in their mind, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to roll through and people are going to be bobbing their heads." No, we're not. Just for the love of God, stop. So I'm going to let that go.
All right. I'll admit it. I'm guilty of doing that. Only not to look cool. I just really like the music.
But if you're around, and it's fine, you can have music if you're out rolling around and you're on a ride. I totally get it. I'm good with that. It's when you have to go 5 miles an hour through town.
Oh, no.
And you're doing it because you just want to show off your sound system. Literally, it bothers me.
That's fair. I can see where you're coming from. So when I'm pulling into a place, you know, I'm automatically clicking down my radio because I don't want to be that guy. But if I'm on the road, it's
on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, now let's move into the last question. And I asked this to all my guests on the stream. What was your worst experience ever on a motorcycle? I think I know the answer to this, but
it's going to surprise you.
Uh-oh. Okay. Let me have it.
All right. So back this is circa 2002. So at that point, I was stunt riding sport bikes. And we were in a big group of people always, and we were the group within the group. Well, you're Toretto, you know what I'm talking about. So we were the group within the group, and this is my wife can contest to this. There's a trick on a motorcycle. Now, back in the day, we weren't doing these. Right at the end of my stunt riding career was 12 o'clocks, like 12 o'clock wheelies and circles and all that stuff becoming a thing, right? To the point where I literally had a plate and rollerblade wheels on the back of my Gixxer 750. That was because we were all learning the 12 o'clock thing. That was the new movement. But before that, it was basically just doing wheelies for as long as possible, miles, right? You and your buddies would see who's just going to hold it up there for forever. So there's a trick that's called a knack, and that's pretty much where the bike's in a wheelie and your body is off to one side. For me, it would be my left side, and you're sweeping your leg off to the right. You're kicking your leg off to the right. So the bike is over here, and you're off 1 foot to the side, and you're in a wheelie. Now keep in mind, there's a big group of us, and at that point, my foot peg broke. My left foot peg snapped. I slammed down, and for some unknown reason, the bike came down, and I kept my hands on the handlebars. But if this is the gas tank on a Gixxer 750 in second gear, what happens when all that weight is there? It pins my throttle hand wide open. So I can't see anything. We had these things called chatterboxes at the time that were like Senna's, but it was like the Zach Morris phone on the side of your helmet. And everybody could talk to everybody, right? There was no it was channel 1 or channel 2. That was it. Right. That's all you had. And I'm hitting the rev limiter, which is 102 miles an hour on a Gixxer 750, by the way. So I'm hitting the rev limiter, and I can, I started slipping back. I'm like, I'm just going to let go and just ride it out, and hopefully I make it. And I could hear people screaming, "Don't let go, don't let go." So and again, this is not skill. This was just street, maybe fight or flight. It just occurred to me while I'm dragging, my knee touched the ground and hit one of those turtle lane separators, like shredded open my jeans, broke my foot, and I ended up wrestling my thumb and hitting the kill switch on my right handlebar, which caused the bike started slowing down. I was so excited that I didn't drop the bike that I stopped the bike, and I was so excited that I didn't crash it that I ended up lying down on the ground and letting the bike rest on top of me until my buddies could stop and pick the bike up. And that was probably my worst motorcycle riding incident, I would say, of my life.
Wow. That okay. So that's a tough choice between that and the tornado, but that one sounds more, I guess you would say, eventful than the tornado. But both of them definitely eventful, no doubt. So hey, we had this is new software, so a bunch of new things go out. It says thanks for subscribing, Donovan and Lee Dara. Hey, appreciate you guys subscribing. I don't know if that's 2 people or 1 person. All right, Ryan, before you go, just let everybody know where they can find you and all your social media and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. So YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Full Throttle Hog on YouTube. On Instagram, it's full_throttle_hog. I usually post up all my photography and stuff like that up on there. So please feel free to reach out, and questions on videos, video production. I usually spend the first couple hours of my day answering emails and questions about either setting up cameras or shots they need to get. So always can throw out questions over there as well. But I appreciate you having me on the show.
No problem, brother. I appreciate you coming on, and great interview. I mean, if you guys haven't checked out his channel, make sure you guys go and check it out. Check out Sturgis Doesn't Care, Every Mile of Memory, both awesome videos, and make sure to check out the rest of his content. Ryan, I want to thank you again coming on, and we'll be talking to you, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, guys. If you're watching this on the replay, I'll go ahead and put a playlist we'll put it right there for my other live streams that I've done. So as always, this is Jogo with Jogo Motorcycle Adventures. Until next time, ride on.